I'm going to be talking about the quadratic formula. When you come across a quadratic like this one, this quadratic equation, and you're not able to factor, you need another algebraic method that you can solve. Right now, we know we can use it for graphing, right? We can graph and find those answers, negative 3.35, negative 0.15. But here's the problem with that. When solving by graphing, we often get an approximate answer. When factoring is not possible, we need another method for finding exact solutions. That method is going to be the quadratic formula.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
That's the quadratic formula.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
You won't forget it after this song.
X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. X is equal to negative b plus or minus the square of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a.
All right, that's the quadratic formula. You need to memorize it. That song will help you memorize it. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to solve that quadratic that we already did solve graphically. We're going to solve it using the quadratic formula. In order to use the quadratic formula, your equation has to be in standard form. ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. It has to be in that form before you, you're used to that. It has to be in that form to factor it as well, but it has to be in that form for the quadratic formula, because then we can figure out what is a, what is b, and what is c. And in this case, a is equal to 2, b is equal to 7, and c is equal to 1. And then we can take that quadratic formula, x equals negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a, and replace the a's, b's, and c's with the numbers that correspond to the equation that we're solving. So it's going to look like this. Negative 7 plus or minus the square root of 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 1 over 2 times 2. In order to actually find our answers, the first thing that you're going to do is the stuff that's inside the square root sign. But don't put the square root in your calculator. Just do 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 1, which is 41. So we get x equals negative 7 plus or minus root 41. And then I can do 2 times 2 is 4 on the bottom. If you're asked for an exact solution, you could actually just leave it like that. So all I've done is 7 squared minus 4 times 2 times 1 gave me 41. And then on the bottom, 2 times 2 is 4. If you're asked for exact solutions, you can leave it like that. Really. It's that easy. But what it actually means, remember when you're solving a quadratic, sometimes you get no solutions, or you could get 2 or 1, and most often you get 2. This is the same as saying, just going to move that out of the way a little bit. The same as saying x equals negative 7 plus root 41 over 4, and x equals negative 7 minus root 41 over 4. So it's actually 2 solutions. If we want an answer like to the nearest tenth or something, then we're going to put the rest of this into our calculator. Negative 7 plus root 41 over 4, and then we'll do negative 7 minus root 41 over 4. those are the two solutions. I actually rounded to the nearest hundredth. Negative 0.15 and negative 3.35. What is your A value here for solving with the quadratic formula? A is negative 2. What's B?
3.
And what's C? 8. So here's a quadratic formula. Fill that in. Negative 3 plus or minus the square root of 3 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times 8 over 2 times negative 2. So again, the only part that I'm putting in my calculator right now is the stuff that's inside the square root sign. 3 squared minus 4 times negative 2 times 8, and that comes out to 73. Is that what you got?
Yeah.
And now I can split it up into my two answers. So I'm going to do negative 3 plus the square root of 73, and then divide that by negative 4, and I get negative 1.39. And then I'll do the minus, so it's the same thing, except it's negative 3 minus root 73 divided by negative 4. And there I get 2.89. Those are the answers rounded to the nearest hundredth. If it asks for exact answers, you could leave it and don't put that final step in your calculator. Just leave it as the negative 3 plus or minus root 73 over negative 4. That could be simplified a little bit, but we haven't really talked yet about simplifying radicals, so we're just going to leave it like that. I used 0.25 instead of 1/4 for A, and then I fill things in. I have negative 3 plus or minus the square root of negative 3 squared. And notice that I put the negative 3 in brackets, because this says square negative 3. If you put negative 3 squared without any brackets, it's saying square 3 and make it negative, which is different than squaring negative 3. And then minus 4 times 0.25 times 9. And when I do that, I'm just going to simplify it a little bit here. What's negative 3?
Oh.
Positive 3. And when I put all that in my calculator, I get 0. And then 0.5 on the bottom. So if you got an error when you put that in, it's because you didn't include those brackets around the negative 3.
Just 6. Either way.
What's the square root of 0? 0. So it's like 3 plus 0 or 3 minus 0, and both of those are 3. So it's just 3 divided by 0.25. Or sorry, by 0.5. And so the answer is just x equals 6. This has only one solution.